Greetings and merry meet to everyone here at the Great North Pagan Podcast. It is Sunday, February the 3rd, 2013. Well, I hope you all have been enduring the winter months here. You know, up here in North Dakota, there's some places been heavy snow. We've been just dealing with the harsh cold that's come out in vengeance, although now we've come out of it and got some snow here and there. I know this morning I was shoving out the driveway, and common thing around this kind of the part of the country, we hear all the snowmobilers out and about. You know, get a second it snows, they gotta go out there and enjoy the rush of the cold and the snow. Hope you've been doing well, Erin.
I've been doing very well. I don't think it's natural to go below zero, but, you know, what can I say? I don't dictate the weather.
Well, as we well enough know, we were at February, and most of us, you know, gotten their fill of the cold, snowy season. So, of course, that comes with the pagan ritual that comes of yesterday, which is called Imbolc. So, for this episode, we will be recording about the Sabbath holiday of Imbolc and the goddess of Brigid. So, for now, sit back and relax and listen to a song of the Brigid praise, and we'll be with you in just a moment.
Blessed Brigid, burning bright, lead us from the darkest night. Triple goddess of new life, shine your flame on us tonight, perpetual flame of love and light. Sing to us your sacred song. Shine your spark on us tonight, fiery spark of love and light. Shine your flame on us tonight, perpetual flame of love and light.
And we are back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that little musical piece here. So again, we are going to talk about the Sabbath of Imbolc. Imbolc is an Irish Celtic festival marking the beginning of spring, set on 2nd of February. The festival was observed in Gaelic Ireland during the Middle Ages. The holiday was, and for many still is a festival of hearth and home and a celebration of lengthening days and the early signs of spring. As you well enough know, nowadays you see that the days are getting longer, the temperatures slowly but still getting warmer. Celebrations often involve hearth fires, special foods, divination, and candles or bonfire if the weather permits. Fire purification is an important aspect of this festival. Brigid, also known as Brigid, Bride, Brigid, or Brid, is the Gaelic goddess of poetry, healing, smithcraft. As both goddess and saint, she is also associated with the holy well, sacred flames, and healing. This lighting of candles and fires represents the return and warmth of the increasing power of the sun over the coming months. Evidence of how Imbolc was celebrated in Gaelic Ireland is found in medieval Irish texts and mentioned in the festival besides folklore collected during the 19th and 20th century in rural Ireland and Scotland. Imbolc was one of the four cross-quarter days referred to in Irish mythology, the others being Beltane, Ludathus, and Samhain. It is associated with the milk or mother's milk. It falls at the time of lambing, when ewes give birth to the new flock. It is the time when the tools that are used to sow the seeds of the harvest are blessed and consecrated. It is also the celebration of the maiden, who prepares her growth and renewal before the spring equinox with the star, which is celebrated in March. Now, as Imbolc rolls in, you can decorate your home with a number of easy craft projects. Start celebrating with a bit early with the Brigid costs or corn dolls. We'll get to that in just a moment. No pagan celebration is really complete without a meal to go along with it. For Imbolc, which foods that honor the hearth or home, breads, grains, and vegetables start from fall, such as onions and potatoes, as well as dietary items. Imbolc is a holiday which has a variety of names, depending on which culture and location you're looking at. Now, like as I also mentioned, in the Irish Gaelic, it's called Omic, which translates to the ewe's milk. It's a precursor to the end of winter, as one mentioned. Now, there's a couple other sources as well. For example, in the ancient Egyptians celebrated this time of year as the Feast of Nut, whose birthday falls on February 2nd in the Gregorian calendar. According to the Book of the Dead, Nut was seen as the mother figure to the sun god Ra, who at sunrise was known as Kipra, in the form of the scarab beetle. In the Jewish law, it took 40 days after the birth of a woman to be cleansed following the birth of a son. 40 days after Christmas, the birth of Jesus, is February 2nd. The symbol is the purification of what to do to the old custom of churching women. It is believed that women were pure for 6 weeks after giving birth, and since Mary gave birth to the winter solstice, she would not be purified until February 2nd. In pagan symbolism, this might be retranslated when the Great Mother was once again becomes the young maiden goddess. Candles were blessed, there was much feasting to be had, and the drab days of February suddenly seemed a little brighter. So, there were such examples, as you can see from it's like the Romans had a much more greater moment to the Egyptians, and the Jewish had something that was more familiar to what I just explained about Imbolc. So now there's then the goddess Brigid. Brigid is revealed by biography myth as a legend and an extraordinary, powerful, loving, vital person. She's full of contradiction. She was a person made into a saint and a goddess. She is a healer who is also a warrior, a humble milkmaid who commands miracles from God, and a goddess of fertility best known to Catholics as the Holy Virgin. We can guess that many of the tales told by the Saint Brigid were actually myths about the goddess, but written references to the Brigid goddess do not appear until hundreds of years after the saint life was chronicled. Brigid is a fire deity and perhaps a sun goddess. In a biography of the Saint Brigid from the Book of Lismore, a druid prophesies that she will be, quote, a daughter conspicuous and radiant, who will shine like the sun among the stars of heaven. She was linked to a glowing light in late winter and the promise of spring's return. Quote, the light of consciousness is as her flame. Brigid guides us through the darkness, breathing new life into land, bringing us into spring. If you take this in perspective to back then, common that would happen in February or, going towards March, you would have all the snow around, but the days get longer, the days get warmer, and the snow seems to disappear. As a healer, Brigid taught bleachcraft and the properties of healing herbs, and was the patroness of dozens of sacred springs and wells that were said to have healing properties. These were the sources of purification for both body and spirit. Many of these wells are still destination for pilgrimages today. By modern Catholics and others who seek her healing waters, one legend tells how a crystal drop from the mantle of Brigid touched the earth and became deep and clear lake. This was said to be the lake of Tir Na Mo, land of the living heart, translated. And there was a healing in it for all weariness and all battle wounds. Both sunlight and water were considered there to be especially effective in curing ailments for the eyes, which was one of the goddess's specialties. In addition to her mantle, many of her fabric blessed by her was said to be healing artifacts. She was very first in Ireland to master the art of weaving, and into her cloth she placed healing threads. As the goddess of smithclass, Brigid rules the mysteries in metalworking, an ancient art that requires the smith to use fire to transform metal into tools and weapons. This implied mastery over fire and matter, and the secrets of old trade were treated as religions and mysteries and technical skills. As a goddess of inspiration, Brigid rules poetry and other sources of creativity. She was closely connected into the seer's ship and therefore was seen inspirational force behind divination as well as the patron of oracles. So you can see how that kind of correlates to when you're back then, when the fact that you're kind of stuck in the winter all that time, but then when everything starts to open up, gets warm, the snow begins to melt, you feel that inspiration that probably came from Brigid herself. In modern Wicca and paganism, Brigid is viewed as a maiden aspect of the maiden mother crone cycle. She walks the earth on the eve of her day, and before going to bed, each member of her household should leave a piece of clothing outside for Brigid to bless. S'more your fire is the last thing you do that night, and rake the ashes smooth. When you get up in the morning, look for the mark of the ashes, a sign that Brigid has passed that way in the night of mourning. The clothes were brought inside and now have the powers of healing and protection thanks to Brigid.
In Christian legend, Saint Brigid is regarded as the midwife who assisted at Jesus' birth. Even though Saint Brigid was not born until 4 centuries after the blessed birth of Jesus, the goddess Brigid ruled healing and childbirth and was a natural choice for midwife to the Virgin Mary. According to the legend, when Jesus and Mary were escaping to Egypt, Brigid later saved them from the wrath of Herod by placing a crown of candles on her head and dancing across the dunes while leading the pursuers away. Was Saint Brigid simply a Celtic goddess recycled by Christian missionaries to make the new faith more palatable to the conservative country folk of Ireland? Who knows? Brigid's convent at Kildare was known for its miracles and evidences of fertility magic. Cows never went dry. Flowers and shamrocks sprang up in her footprints. Irish writers refused to reduce their goddess to mere sainthood and insisted that she was Queen of Heaven, which meant identifying her with Mary. According to the Christian folklore, Saint Brigid, even as a child, had godlike powers. The folk tales attribute these powers to Brigid's devotion to God, and because she was so devoted, he refused her nothing. However, they are the sort of miracles that can just as easily be attributed to a goddess. Brigid found her monastery at Kildare under an oak tree sacred to the goddess worshipping Druids, whose name translates as oak seers. She appointed goldsmiths to be bishops, an odd custom for a Christian ecclesiastic, but not so strange if ordained by the goddess of smithcraft. During her long ministry, Saint Brigid was renowned for her healing powers, just as the deity Brigid was goddess of healing. Almost every attribute of the goddess appears again in the saint's stories. Was Brigid a goddess or a human woman turned saint, or both? It is entirely possible that a nun named for the goddess lived in the 5th and 6th centuries, ministered to the poor, and founded the abbey at Kildare. After her death, natural confusion might have credited her with the wondrous feats of the Celtic goddess for whom the nun was named. Or the Roman hierarchy may have campaigned to transfer the goddess attributes and her pagan following to the woman who was, so we are told, an obedient servant of the church. Or maybe it is possible that the saint known as Brigid was indeed the goddess Brigid incarnate, coming down to leave mementos of her existence.
Alright, so that was the history of Brigid. Now we get to the celebration of Imbolc itself. Now, again, we had mentioned that Brigid is of the fire goddess. The fire represents the growing light of the sun. Candles are lit to celebrate the increased daylight, and often the candles were blessed for the year to come. This connection to candles offers another alternate name for the holiday, Candlemas. In a personal practice, the light special sun candles and blessed candle holders for the year to come. Ritual washing was done to cleanse and prepare the people for the agriculture work of the coming seasons. Water was blessed and then used ceremony to wash the head, hands, and feet. Each year, when you do this, you dip your fingers in the blessed water and run them over the body parts in question, asking that you be cleansed of the water's cold and filled with the summer's warmth to work towards the new season. Then pour the remaining water out to the earth, thanking Brigid for her blessing. The main charms for talismans of Imbolc are related to Brigid. First, there was the Brigid cross, a woven sun wheel shape which represented the cycle of the year and the 4 main holiday days. According to the book Apple Branch, on Imbolc you can weave new Brigid's crosses, or bless ones you already have, although it may be better to burn the old and weave the new year when possible. A Brigid cross is protective and healing to have in the home. A second talisman is the Brigid, or Little Brigid, a small cloth or straw doll wearing white clothes, which is effigy of the goddess. In some cases, the Brigid would be made from straw saved from the previous Lugunsta. This doll played a role in a ritual after being brought outside, usually carried by the eldest daughter, then invited to enter the home, where it is led with all ceremony to a specially prepared little bed. The doll was left in a bed overnight, and its presence was believed to bless all those in the household. Another talisman connected to Imbolc was Brigid's mantle, or an Brat Brigid, the length of a cloth left out on the windowsill over the course of the holiday day and night. It is believed that cloth absorbs the energy of the goddess during the ritual and can be used for healing and protection throughout the years, like we mentioned about the history of the goddess. This talisman would be kept and recharged every year, attaining full power after 7 years. The ritual for Brigid on Imbolc centers on inviting the goddess in and offering her hospitality. In some cases, a woman was chosen to play the part of the goddess. In other cases, the Brigid was used. The door would be opened, and to her she would be loudly invited in, shown to her bed, and offered specifically baked bread. Candles would be lit, and the windows and next to her bed, songs would be sung, and prayers would be calling on Brigid to bless all present in the coming seasons, and grant health and protection to the household. A small broom or white wand would be used to be placed next to the bed, and the ashes from the fire would be smoothed down in the hopes that this morning would reveal the marks in the wand, or better yet, the footprints of the goddess herself, either which would be a sign of a blessing, much like it was with the hot coals. Placing the doll on her bed at night would be the following by a large family meal. In Scotland, 100 years ago, when entire communities still celebrated Imbolc in the old way, a sheaf of corn would be dressed as Brigid and taken from house to house by the young girls. The girls would carry the doll from home to home, where the goddess would be greeted and offered food and gifts. After visiting each home, the girls would return to the house they started from, where a party would be held with music, dancing, and feasting until dawn. All the leftover food would be handed out to the poor the next day. Other rituals involved blessing the forge fires and blacksmiths or other world divinations. In some Scottish mythologies, it is believed that Brigid is held by the Cailleach Bua during the winter months, but escapes, or is rescued by her brother Angus Magog in Imbolc. In others, it is said that the Cailleach drinks from the hidden spring that transforms into Brigid on this day. For modern people seeking to celebrate Imbolc on this traditional day, there are many options. Rituals can be adopted to this feature of Brigid. If you celebrate in a group, you can have one person wait outside with the doll while the other members prepare her bed, and then the group leader would go to the doorway and invite the goddess in. This could be modified for use in an urban setting, with the Brigid waiting out in the hallway or a separate room to be invited in. It's a common form in some rituals to actually role-play it out. It's quite fine. Once invited in, the goddess can be offered food and gifts, as was done in Scotland, and stories about Brigid from mythology could be told. Water can be used for purification. Blessing with fire or of candles can be done, as well as making and consecrating the charms associated with Brigid. After ritual, the doll can be left in bed while a group celebrates with the party. To keep the spirit of this way was done for a modern time. All members should bring food to donate to a local food pantry. A solitary celebration could involve inviting the goddess in, placing the Brigid in her bed, making offerings to her, and having a private celebration and food donations. Imbolc is a powerful holiday day with many beautiful traditions. By understanding how this day was celebrated in the past, we can find ways to incorporate those methods into modern practice and preserve the traditions that have surrounded Brigid's Day for so many generations. So now, there's also the different animals that is also represented in plants. First, there is the boar. The boar was a symbol of aggressiveness and battle to the Celts, and was often pictured on jewelry, weapons, and armor. It is an appropriate companion for Brigid in her warlike aspect, as Britannia, goddess of martial arts. In Norse tradition, dedicated that pork be eaten on Imbolc, and that the bones be saved as talismans of strength and vitality until planting time. Then there was the sheep. Imbolc, or Ulimek, celebrates the season when sheep are given birth. It's a very important time for the pastoral Celts, since their flocks and herds were their livelihood and their major form of wealth. Then there was the snake and serpent. On February the 1st, a snake was supported to emerge from the lair, and the following traditional charm was recited. Early on bride's morn, the serpent shall come from the hole. I will not molest the serpent, nor will the serpent molest me. Even through the ancient Celts, who grew up in Ireland, had never encountered snakes, must they have considered them to be very magical creatures. And there's also some plants, as you all know from the harvest. First there was the oak, sacred to Brigid, who was raised by the Druid priests, or oak priests. The oak is associated with Daga, the goddess Brigid's father or consort. The blackberry, next to the oak, was the plant is most closely associated with the goddess Brigid. It represents prosperity and is supported to the beneficial for the stomach, including diarrhea. There is grains and hops. Since ale and beer were Brigid's beverage of choice, these plants were very special to her. Mild state of drunkenness was, though, to open the mind to inspiration from the goddess. Being drunk was actually considered a good thing back then. Hazel, invented by the goddess Brigid when she lamented the death of her son Rudon, and then the willow. It is believed that this tree is sacred to February. It symbolizes female energy in the end of the lunar cycle. It has been traditionally used to treat illness caused by dampness. Today, salsine is extracted from the bark to treat rheumatism. So now we get to the story of Brigid and her cross, as now we've mentioned it a few times here.
In Christian mythology, Saint Brigid and her cross are linked together by a story about her weaving this form of cross at the deathbed of either her father or a pagan lord, who upon hearing what the cross meant asked to be baptized. One version goes as follows. A pagan chieftain from the neighborhood of Kildare was dying. Christians in his household sent for Brigid to talk to him about Christ. When she arrived, the chieftain was raving, as it was impossible to instruct this delirious man. Hopes for his conversion seemed doubtful. Brigid sat down at his bedside and began consoling him. As was customary, the dirt floor was strewn with rushes both for warmth and cleanliness. Brigid stooped down and started to weave them into a cross, fastening the points together. The sick man asked what she was doing. She began to explain the cross, and as she talked, his delirium quieted, and he questioned her with growing interest. Through her weaving, he converted and was baptized at the point of death. Since then, the cross of rushes has been venerated in Ireland. Brigid died at Kildare on February 1st in 525 AD. She was laid to rest in a jeweled casket at Kildare. In 835, her remains were moved to protect them from Norse invaders and interred at the same grave that holds the remains of St. Patrick and St. Columcille at Downpatrick. She is sometimes known as Brigid, Bride and Mary of the Gale. Her feast day is February 1st. So strong was the respect and reverence for this holy lady that she became the patroness of parishes, towns, and counties, not only in Ireland, but all across Europe and the Americas. She even had a symbol. As the shamrock became associated with St. Patrick, a tiny cross made of rushes was linked with St. Brigid. Woven by her while she explained the passions of Christ to a dying pagan, he was baptized before he died. Similar crosses are fashioned to this day as a defense against harm and placed in the rafters of a cottage on the feast day of St. Brigid, February.
So now, if you're watching this the video version here, we're going to show you step by step of how to make a St. Brigid's cross. This method produces a cross in the form of which, much like the Eye of God, and as such brings the mind of antiquity of the Celtic traditions of Ireland. Now, basically what you need is 2 sticks and either rushes of wire or paper twist. Heavy gauge electrical wire, preferred like green for color, makes for a great reusable cross which can be reconstructed for each season. I start the cross and pass it through the class audience for completion. First of all, secure the 2 sticks together at right angles. You can use like string and tape to just secure it. Pull rush or wire from the center attachment. Now, if you look in the picture, under the X in the top image, over the top cross the center to the left. Then under the bottom left spoke. Then over the upper left spoke. Then curve back under it, and continue in a clockwise direction to the right. Ideally, there should be a few inches of stick remaining exposed in each spoke. It should resemble a cross more than an Eye of God. Now, there's a second method to do this as well. This method produces a cross much like what I just described. For some reason, this method seems to be more archaic than the first time around. This time, tie 9 straws together at their ends. Spread each of them as shown as you see in the picture, and facing down, 3 to the right and 2 of each other direction. Fold the front straw of the 3 under the other 2. Bring up and over to the long side the 2 and the next corner, and it should be completed as the final picture shows here. These are 2 common ways to make the St. Brigid cross. This is basically what you would be using in the Imbolc ritual. Finally, there's also the bride doll. Now, make of the bride bed is using corn or wheat. Now, you dress the bride doll in white or blue and lay rest in the bed. Lay the doll in bed and say, "Welcome the bride, both maiden and mother. Rest and prepare for the time of seed. Cleansed and refreshed from labors behind her, with the promise of spring she lays before me." The next morning, remove the dress and scatter the wheat outdoors, or if you use corn, hang it up in a tree for the squirrels and birds. This can be seen in terms of the lady's recovery from the birthing bed and readiness to begin the turning of the seasons anew. So that is pretty much Imbolc in a nutshell. I hope that gives you a good understanding of it. If you have any further questions, there's some good sources, and if you have questions for us, you can always email us at greatnorthpagan@live.com. some things to close at. I want to make mention of a few things. In the past couple months since our last episode, there is a site called paganliving.tv. It's being aired down in the Twin Cities. They do a few kind of things. First, they serve as news, information, and a lifestyle program for the pagan community. This will be a first weekly broadcast program that will discuss today's issues in the pagan perspective. Second, by showing the world who these pagans like us really are. They'll have an opportunity to educate those who fear us, build bridges of cooperation within our communities, and have an influential voice in society. There is a link on our YouTube page of their site. They are very well educational. I strongly suggest you go check them out. Another thing also is 12 Houses. If you remember our very first episode, we mentioned about some of the stores in the area, and 12 Houses is a New Age store up in Grand Forks. In the past couple of months, they have recently moved. You can find them now at 1604 South Washington in Grand Forks. Same store as before. If you're in the Grand Forks area, go check them out. It's also the area that the Coven, the Order of the Roarer, is also doing their open rituals. They will be planning to do their All-Star ritual there in March. I will let you know when I get a more accurate date of when it is. And then just to let you know that we have started scheduling the future episodes here. They'll be coming out on Wednesdays. And then whenever we also have a video blog, those will come out on Fridays. For example, the next episode we will be talking about coming out of the broom closet, the special do's and don'ts. They'll be coming out on February the 13th. And then we will also be speaking to Living with a Pagan Spouse, who will be coming out on February the 27th. And you'll just keep an eye on the website and also the Facebook page and on Twitter. We'll keep that posted for you. So now, as we close, me and Erin shall be doing the Came of Brigid. So I want you to, if you're near an altar or near like this coming of the sun, I want you to close your eyes and focus in. Be the compassing of Brigid around me, keeping me in health and goodness, keeping me in joy and plenty, keeping me in life and hope, with great goodwill and happy fortune, encircling me by day and night. Be the cross of Brigid before me, be the cross of Brigid behind me, shining with a radiance that draws all spirits of love and right, bringing angels, allies, guardians, goddesses, and gods of light. The fiery sword of Brigid defend me, the mighty shield of Brigid protect me, the blessed cloak of Brigid enfold me, be the encompassing of Brigid around me, on this day and every day, through this night and every night, through the wheel of the seasons, in the dark and in the light. Blessed be, O Brigid, spread above my head your mantle bright to guard me. So then, I hope you enjoyed that. So this has been Thomas Punton.
And Erin Lecy.
I hope you've had a wonderful Imbolc. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Blessed be.